Okay, this is now the 5 minute tarot for the 4th of November 2017. And it's, if I have to call it something, I'm calling it the major trumps. And it's because a couple of days ago I was thinking about 1 and 2 and how 1 is unity and it represents everything. But it can be hard to start with the idea of everything. And then I thought maybe we should start with 2, but then I thought major trumps. It's often we'll begin with the Fool and then the Magician because there's 0 and 1, and it's sort of natural, and we can often want to begin with 1 for the Magician. But I thought, what happens? What would we get if we started at the end and worked back? It would give us a different understanding, I think, of the major trumps. And I wanted to see what we would get. So I haven't really prepared this. And it was not prepared deliberately so you could follow along and see what I'm doing. And so that when you try this, or if you try this for yourself and you get stuck, then it's quite normal to get stuck. And also I don't really know what I'm going to say. I've got a rough idea that I want to begin with the world, and then I'm going to start with the world, then I'm going to go back to 20, the judgment, and then the sun for 19, and the moon for 18, and the star for 17. And I want to see if I can put together a story or a logical progression, beginning at the end for the world, and trying to figure out how we got to the world, not beginning with everything in the Magician, which is a new beginning. And try to understand the beginning point, which can be really difficult. But if we can start with the end, which is probably something that we know. So let's say we start with the world. And so I'm going to make something up. I'm going to mention ideas that the different major trumps represent, or somebody has written about them, or I've thought of them, or you've commented about them. So let's say the world represents success and ultimate success and success in the world, because it's called the world. So it's not necessarily spiritual understanding, but we're dealing with practical, down-to-earth, realistic successes in the world. So maybe we're going to start with that, like somebody had success. And people knew it, right? There was public recognition that the person did well, or won the competition, or achieved their goal, or was successful in some way. And that is kind of what the world represents, depending on the question that's been asked. So will the relationship go well and you get the world? Yes, you're going to marry. You're going to get along with each other because you're both on the same page and you've got the same outlook, and you sort of complement each other. In not compliment, saying nice things, but compliment, like you sort of complete the other. Remember that line in, what was it called? The Tom Cruise and Renee Zellweger, show me the money, and she comes back, he comes back and says something to try and make up, and she says, you had me at hello. So that's like the world for a relationship question. You sort of recognize you complete me, that kind of idea. Okay, so let's say we start with the world as success. How do you get to be successful? How do you get to experience the success? The card before judgment, before the world is judgment. So in order to get success, you have to be open. Like the people in the coffin lid, the lid is off the coffin. You have to be open, and you have to be alert to hear the trumpet, the angel blowing the trumpet. So you can't lock yourself away. If you're going to be successful, you don't want to lock yourself away. You want to be available and paying attention and being alert, so that when an opportunity comes knocking, you're ready to open the door, or you recognize that this idea or this person or this situation or this job is a great opportunity, and you're ready to jump on board or climb on board, and you're ready to you're confident as well, so that you know that when you hear the thought, the moment of inspiration, the angel blowing the trumpet, and you hear the noise, you recognize that it's now time. So maybe with judgment, you know when the timing is right. So you recognize that now is the time to make an advance. And so by being alert and paying attention and being able to recognize when things are right or when things are ripe, like fruit is ripe and it falls from the tree, or a pear is ripe and it's nice to eat, or a peach, something like that. When it's ripe, when it's just perfectly ripe, that they taste good. But you recognize that now is the right moment. And when you're in that state of mind, that's when you experience success represented by the world. So how do you make yourself alert and able to recognize when the time is right? We go back from before 20 is 19, which is the sun card. So maybe in order to hear the angel blowing the trumpet, you have to be childlike, because there's a child sitting in the back of the horse in the sun card. So maybe there's something about being in the moment and paying attention and being willing to explore the way that a child is. Children will pick stuff up and put it in their mouth. Babies will, and to taste it and to see what it tastes like and what does it feel like. But they're willing to explore and experiment. So if you have the idea with the sun card, if you're willing to explore and experiment, you put yourself in the position where you can hear the angel blow the trumpet, which will give you success. 19, 20, 21. But the sun card can also represent that you've got an idea, you've got a plan, you've got an idea of what it is that you want. And because you've got an idea of what it is that you want, or where you're going, or what conclusion you want to reach, that puts you in a position where you're going to be able to recognize when something comes along that's going to help you in that direction, the judgment card. And that will mean that you have the success represented by the world card. So we've got the sun, and then judgment, and then the world. But how do you come to have a plan? From the sun card, you go back one step and we've got the moon, which is, so if the question is, how do you come to have a plan? And the step before having a plan is the moon. What sense do we make of that? And I'm kind of drawing a blank. I'm thinking of the picture, and we've got the path between the two pillars, and we've got the dog on one side and the wolf on the other, and we've got the crayfish emerging from the water. So maybe you come up with a plan when you're willing to leave behind the environment you're comfortable with and do something different. So because the crayfish creature in the foreground of the picture lives in the water, but it's stepping onto the land. So you're going from a situation where you would normally be and where you're normally comfortable, and it's like your natural habitat, and you're willing to step out of it and go on a journey. And it's a bit like the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell, where he talks about mythology and how, and the various books will tell you about how successful movies follow the idea of the hero's journey, where you take somebody who is in their natural environment and they do well, but then they're taken out of that environment and put in a new one, and they have to develop new abilities and draw on themselves, and they get confused in the beginning because they don't know what's going on, and there's a quest. And so you get the idea of Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy, who was a Chicago policeman, but then he's got to go to Los Angeles, to Los Angeles, and because he wants to find out who killed his friend. And so he has to deal with a different type of policeman. And so he's on a quest to find out who killed his friend. And so that's following the different steps along the way of the hero's journey. And you find that kind of situation in lots of movies. You've got the person in their environment, they're given a challenge or a quest, and they have to go into a new type of circumstance. So we've got the crayfish that lives in the water, is willing to do something it hasn't done before. If you do that, then you can have a plan. And then because you've got a plan, you're going to hear the angel blow its trumpet. You're going to hear and recognize new opportunities, and that's going to give you the success. But before you are the crayfish emerging from the water onto the land, the step before that is the star. So that's all I'm going to say at the moment. Why don't you try that? Start at the end with the world and work backwards through the major trumps and see what kind of story you come up with and how your understanding of individual cards is changed or improved or expanded because of the ideas that you get from considering the backwards motion through the major trumps instead of the normal forward motion that you read about in books that you probably are familiar with. So by going backwards and changing the direction, leading up to unity, which is the Fool at the beginning, and leading up to a new beginning represented by the Magician, you're going to discover a lot, I think. And it'll mean that when somebody asks a question, any question, and a major trump comes up, you're going to have an awful lot more that you could say about the card. You're not going to get stuck the way that you might at the moment, because you've learned it one way, and the fact that you're learning it the opposite direction is going to free up the associations that you make with different major trumps. And maybe what I'll do is I'll do some, maybe I'll come back to this and go from 80, excuse me, from 18 back a few more cards. I may do that tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See what you get. Leave a comment, leave a like, and all that kind of stuff. Thanks a lot. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.